planting bare root raspberry canes. Since I've had success with blackberries, I wanted to get some raspberries started as soon as possible, but it was the end of June, and that's not the time to start raspberries in the Texas heat, but I decided to give it a try anyway. They actually started off okay for a little while, as we had cooler than average weather for about 2 weeks after planting. A few weeks later, and the Texas heat has overpowered these new bare roots, and they dried out and the canes wilted over. Lesson learned. Start raspberries earlier in the season so the roots have more time to get established. So here we are starting in January 2021. The row has been cleared of weeds and I'm ready to try again. I'm planting red Latham and Brandywine varieties. I need to better prepare this raspberry row, so I'm going to fix it up by adding some new soil into these 2 bins for easier mixing. Now I'll add in some compost and mix it up well. Temporarily remove my drip line and now begin to spread out the soil and compost mixture down the row. Flatten and smooth it out. Next, I set the spacing at 2 feet apart for each raspberry plant using simple sticks as markers. Here's another look down the row. Let's take out the first one. Red Latham. And the second one, Brandywine. Remove the stick and mark the spot. And now begin digging up the soil. Open it up. Here's a quick look inside. Remove the packaging. Check out the roots. They're not dried up. That's great. And now open up the roots a little. Place inside. It's at the right level. And now start backfilling with soil. Press the soil down. And now water in well. Now I'll go down the line repeating the process. I added in 1 extra scoop of compost for each raspberry plant to help give it a good start. Now I have a helper with me enjoying this nice weather. This is such a great way to spend time together outside. Last one. Add some compost. And now water them all in. Here's the finished look. The ones on the right side with green leaves are the red Lathams. The others on the left side without leaves are the Brandywine variety. May 2021, 4 months later and the roots have settled in with leaves growing. Here's the first new cane sprouting up. And this one I'll be tip layering later, using the same process from one of my earlier videos you can see right here in the corner. June 2021, time to build a trellis and get the canes managed and off the ground. There are many different trellis types, but here I'll make a simple V-trellis. I'll keep the V shape roughly the width of the row and drive the inexpensive 5 feet U-posts about 18 inches into the ground. They feel sturdy enough for this raspberry row. I decided to use garden string and it worked out okay for one season, sort of. More on that later. I measured about 18 to 24 inches high, tied a knot, brought the string down to the next post, tightened it, and tied it off. Same for the other side. Here's a look after completion. Next, I'll start tying them up. I'll use the same garden string and take a small piece and tie a simple knot to hold it in place, but still loose enough that the cane can continue to grow. Space them out, some to the front, others to the back. Here's a closer look at the knots and secured to the trellis. And now I'll finish up along the row. I found this one touching the ground and bending back up, which is great for tip layering, also called tip rooting. Take a small pot or plastic cup and bury the tip. I have several videos on my channel showing exactly how to do this, and I do this often so I can give away free plants to friends and neighbors. Here's one I tip layered previously with roots showing on the side and coming out at the bottom. Now cover with a rock to hold in place, and in about 4 to 6 weeks it'll be ready to go. Here we are 2 months later and the string has started to weaken and ended up breaking at the end of the summer. Another lesson learned, use 12 or 16 gauge wire instead. 1 year later and it's time to install wire. I'll take 12 gauge wire for the top and tie it at about 36 inches to be the load bearing wire for the fruit. Bring it down to the second post, wrap it a few times and over to the other side, wrapping it again while using the built-in fence clips to hold it in place and bring it back to the start. This is heavy-duty 12-gauge wire, which is a bit tough to straighten using these smaller 5-feet U-posts. If I were to do it over again, I'd probably use the 16-gauge wire for both the top and bottom lines. Now I'll start getting them into position so I can begin securing them to the trellis wire. Here's a closer view of one of the tie-ups. Take a single piece of string, loosely tie them off. We'll do one more. I'm using about 3 to 5 inches worth of garden string, and I just loosely tie it to the wire. This helps to keep it in place and up off the ground. Now for the bottom level, I'll use smaller 16-gauge wire, as this is mostly just for guidance and easier to work with. Measure about 18 inches high, connect it to the post, wrap around a few times, and then secure it. Now walk it down to the other post. Circle the post a few times, tighten it, then over to the other post, using the built-in fence clips to help keep it in place. Now working my way back, going under the canes, and returning to the last post. Now I'll wrap it once, and then I'll cut the wire. Now tighten it back up and tie it off. Now I'll tie up some of the smaller lower canes. Normally I would have completed the lower level trellis wire earlier in the season first, but I really wanted to get my long canes off the ground and back into the row. It still worked out fine. If you'll notice in this section, I go from no gloves to gloves, and then back to no gloves. The thorn varieties, they get you sometimes, but it's difficult to tie that garden string with the gloves on. Here's the start, January 2021. I'll pause for just a second. To a year and a half later on June 2022. I would have a lot more canes to show up on the trellis, but I tip layered about 20 long canes back in March and gave most of those away. What you see here is all that's left. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a like and leave a comment. Thanks so much for watching, and please subscribe.